ride on a long distance bus, regular giant type tour bus. This is not the first class, the middle class. There is no first class on this bus, but can't wait to try out first class. Here you have these very plush, sculptured, leather upholstered chairs. That board that you see there folds down and creates an area, as you can see here, for your feet. I take my shoes off, put them underneath there. I shouldn't even have this bag there. I should throw it over there, and then I have complete comfort, or put it in the baggage, just lock it up. There's music, there's television for long flights, long trips, probably have video or something. And you're pretty much like an airline. This is your air conditioning here, and then a light here. Now, if it were dark, you'd have lights, and this controls apparently the volume and all that. And then there's down in the armrest, there's a place for for something to plug in. I think it may be a chair or a table, but they don't use them. They just use trays. Air conditioned, very, very comfortable. Can contrast this with the last week in the hostels, and I stayed in nice enough hostels, but in the one hostel, like last night, it was, the last 3 nights, it was hot as could be. They had a fan, which didn't do much but circulate incredibly hot air. Finally, I took the mattress off the bed, moved it out on the deck, and slept there, which worked fine. Shower did not have any hot water, just a trickling of even cool water coming out the cold side. And this was a good hostel, it's just the things were the way they were. And when I was in Buenos Aires, not much different. This is the bus station in Mendoza, where I transferred another bus to get up to San Rafael. And then once I get there, I can check and see if I can get a bus to Malargüe. Bus for San Rafael. A little while they'll service little cookies and some tea. And they have blankets and a little pillow, better than the airline's pillows. This one's actually have some substance to them. Comfort of these things would justify easily if you had a 6-hour trip and you could plan it for the late evening. Just take that. This is en route to San Rafael, and it basically looks like a little bit wetter southern Arizona. Is known for wines. Oh, you see that this is much more lush here for some reason. Bianchi wines. I think these may be olive trees. Romulus. That's pretty good rains there recently. I'm now in the small town of Malargüe, Malargüe, and it's a city that's actually caters, like Jackson does, to a very large ski crowd of quite wealthy who either stay in town or stay at the resort out near the ski area. The weather seems to be very similar to Jackson right now. I'm under the trees in this lovely park called Plaza de San Martin. On the way in addition to skiing, it's known for minerals, chivas, which means goats, and doro, which means ore, or gold. Interestingly enough, it's also known mostly for its potatoes. I met a woman coming in, Sonia, who looked like she was about 28, but actually was 39, had 2 children, 2 girls, 15 and 17. As a science teacher, she makes about 1,000 pesos a month, and that's insufficient for her to be able to travel. Of course, having 2 children that she has to raise by herself would hamper that effort too. That's, I'm sure, a statue of General San Martin, the savior of, the liberator of Argentina from the Spanish. This is supposed to be a dry area, as opposed to San Rafael, which I'll go back to in a couple of days after I do the tour tomorrow of Parque Nacional Payunia. But here you can see water flowing. The lawns are richly green, as is everything around here. It's really a pretty little city. Quite small. It looks quite new. This is all relatively new. Not sure what the purpose of that is, except maybe for getting a better view. We'll find out in a couple minutes. This is just a very lovely accoutrement for the center of town. Another fountain, a more modern design in the background. Apparently its use is not one that's encouraged because its door is locked. But what's interesting is the Oriental pagoda look. This is a long hallway and a well-maintained hostel. It's a pretty little room, has bunk beds, so it could accommodate 3 people or 4. But I get it as a single for 70 pesos, which divided by 3 is 20-something, 23-something. And then this one's different than the other room she offered me, but I think the bed's better. But the difference here is the shower uses the common floor. And then you have a squeegee that you use to send the water down the drain there. This is just perfect for me. This room also includes towels and breakfast. This looks like the main part of town. I'm in search of a couple of restaurants. These bricks may represent what someone was talking about with the economy, and that is that, or I think it was Duke, that if this is like Mexico, you can't get a loan on a house once it's built or to build it. So if you want a house, you have to amass the money, amass the materials, and build it. And that's maybe what this is, the first investment in the house. It's not a town you stumble around in drunk at night, I don't imagine, because these water drain lines are wide open. Here everything will be done by hand. Looks like they're taking everything apart, getting ready to expand on the construction. Unlike Buenos Aires, where you'll die riding these things around town, in towns like this, and apparently in San Rafael even more so, bikes are an extremely popular form of transportation. which is a great idea for a lot of reasons. Stopped to rest my leg with the weather. You know, the sun's probably up about 35 degrees off the horizon, and there's a little cool breeze. It's warm, but absolutely a pleasant summer day in Jackson or any other place. Not terribly hot. Nicely done area here, sidewalk. This is the second bicycle shop in the last 2 blocks. Went to the restaurant, doesn't open up till 8 o'clock, which is kind of a bummer. Just stopped and chatted briefly with a couple of the fine Mormon men that are sent over here on mission. One leaves in a week or so to go back home, and the other has 7 months here, and the difference yet to go. The stores just opened up again about 2 hours ago. And the early evening fills with people who perhaps have had their dinner, like the lady and myself sitting over there having an ice cream. This is the night view of the park if it comes out, but well lit. Very nice. This is a very small community, although it seems to have a pretty interesting economic base. Gold, other minerals, potatoes, ski tourism. Starting off on our trip to Parque Nacional Payunia. This is a little tienda that we stopped at. Comedor. Bought a tomato and went to the bathroom, washed it off. Just as a precaution, although I think hopefully I've had my bout. My problem right now is constipation for the last 2 or 3 days. From taking the anti-inflammatory drugs. You'll notice even in a small town like this, there's construction waiting to be completed. Here are the rebar supports for central column or wall columns and corner columns of a building. sheet of flow. Carvings, that cave carved by the water when it's really cranking down here. It must be after one heck of a good rain. It looks like they've had it there because you can see there at a much higher elevation than the river is right now, mud. It's a close-up example of the same thing. You can see where these folks are standing. You have the same carving out here. It is just interesting where the water is making many different channels through this rock as it wears its way through. Apparently, a man tried to kayak down through this stuff, and apparently it drove him and his kayak underneath the rock where he was pinned and died. I'm putting a little bit more in the explanation than I actually heard. Notice here how this elevation is different than that elevation. Looking closely at the rocks, you can see how polished they are. Look at the rocks up on top, they're fairly rough and rugged, like that was right in there, indicating the surface has not been eroded by water. So that everything below, including maybe that shiny part right there, are a reflection of the water wearing its way down through this rock. I think the most fascinating part is how it's eroded different channels at different elevations. And one indicator of elevation is notice the sand. Beautifully cleaned, like it was washed in a bowl, which it really is. You can see that's kind of bowl. But the sand continually cleaned and added to by the water. Creosote plant, it's called hadiza in Spanish. Look at the size of these spines here. And these are the rock hard ones, solid as a rock. And very, very sharp. This is called moje. Moje. Look how dead that looks. I suppose the ocatina, which has little flowers that come out after rain, but it looks greener on the surface. The structure is totally different of the plants. Another little roadside shrine. They seem to be all along the road, usually at points that are unique, like a point, a rocky point. Much more sand here. The wind cranks up a lot of, or carries a lot of dirt. Okay, here there are two distinct volcanoes that we see in the lower left-hand corner. Obviously some kind of either plastic or combination. And then off to the right, the lower right-hand If you look up here, this point that we've been looking at is actually the remains of a volcano. I think, I can't understand the Spanish, but I think it's the left side of a volcano. My guess is that everything I'm panning around through in a few moments is volcano. Obviously the one in front there, dead center is. The one that's closer to us and hollowed out there is. Probably that little one behind it is. sand, quite a bit of dirt and sand here.
And I'm sure these cinders, it looks like these are cinders, which is why they come from cinder cones and are blown here, and the wind at the time of the explosion as well as after. But it's possible they represent
eroded flow of lava. So I'm not quite sure what it is, and I'm not sure what the red stuff is here either, but something.